Hi, I'm Adam Porter and this is my board gaming vlog, and today we're going to talk about the Spiel des Jahres awards because the nominees were announced for 2019, and the Spiel des Jahres is the most prestigious award, and this week is one of the most fascinating weeks in the board game calendar really, when those Spiel des Jahres awards, the nominees are announced. The winner is also an exciting time when that gets announced. But there are three levels to this award. There's the family level award, which is the Spiel des Jahres itself. There's the Kinderspiel, the children's game awards, and then the Kennerspiel, which is the gamers, the experienced players award. Now, I never really know the Kinderspiel games. I'm not usually familiar with them, so I won't cover them in too much detail. But it was nice to see games like Magic Maze Kids getting a mention and Concept Kids getting a mention. These kids versions of the sort of games that I've got all around me really getting some sort of nod and actually a seal of quality there. So that's nice to see. The Spiel des Jahres awards themselves the nominees were Just One and LAMA and Werewords. Now, none of those games is an obvious sort of breakout hit, not something that leaps out as being, you know, absolute Spiel des Jahres quality, but then I don't know what else was from last year. But actually, once we start looking at them, I think it's interesting to go back over the years of the Spiel des Jahres and think about, you know, has it represented over those years the way that our hobby has evolved and all the various different landmarks in that time? I mean, we've seen deck builders represented with Dominion. We've seen you know, lots of tile laying games with Carcassonne and Tikal and things in the earlier years of the Spiel des Jahres. We've seen all the worker placement games when they came out. Then Kalos and Agricola were getting awards from the Spiel des Jahres jury. Cooperative gaming, Matt Leacock kept missing out with things like Forbidden Island, and Pandemic he lost out to Dominion. I mean, what a year that was, Dominion versus Pandemic. But then later he gets his award for the special award last year for Pandemic Legacy Season 2, and so legacy games get a nod. When that micro game fad was going on over about 2 or 3 years, there were loads of micro games coming out with very few components, and that was around the time that Hanabi came in. Now, Hanabi wasn't quite a micro game, but it was very, very small for a Spiel des Jahres game. So what's left? I mean, what are the remaining sort of genres which haven't been represented in Spiel des Jahres? And I would say one of them is social deduction, and this is where Werewords comes in. Werewords is the first time, as far as I'm aware, that a Spiel des Jahres nominee has been a social deduction game. So I think it stands a chance. I think the closest we had was Spyfall getting recommended a few years ago. What about app-based games? In the Kennerspiel category, we've got the game Detective, a very complex, long, app-based sort of deduction sort of style game, which I don't think we've seen the like of in Spiel des Jahres before. I don't think we've seen anything with that hybrid of technology and sort of tabletop gaming. So I think Detective stands a real chance because of the innovation there. I mean, the Spiel des Jahres does recognise innovation. We saw the Exit games winning the Kennerspiel last year. So the obvious winners, the ones which I think, I don't know, leap out, are Just One for the Spiel des Jahres award, just because it's so accessible and so colourful, and the Spiel des Jahres has given lots of awards for party games in the past. But maybe Werewords, with its slightly sort of crunchier rule set, might sneak in there. Now, I can't show you Werewords because I haven't got a copy of it, and in fact I haven't played it, although I have played the very similar game, The Insider. But I can tell you, Just One is far simpler than Werewords, far more accessible, and I know that because it's pretty much the simplest, most accessible game I've ever seen.
Just One is a cooperative party game where all players work together to get the best score. The group are given a mystery word which everyone sees except for one player who will be the guesser. All players each write one word down on their plastic easel except for the guesser, and the guesser closes their eyes, then all clues are revealed. Any words which have been duplicated are cancelled by tipping the easel over, and the guesser then opens their eyes and looks at the remaining clues. They then try to guess the mystery word. This is repeated 13 times with players taking turns as guesser, and the group scores 1 point for each success. A score of 7 to 8 is considered average, 11 to 13 is considered pretty awesome according to the manual.
Now, if we take a game like Just One with its simple rule set, I mean, there's barely any rules to it. Let's compare that to a game that normally would be about as simple as it gets. I can't believe that a game like LAMA has been nominated for the Spiel des Jahres Awards. It's so simple. But when I say that, it's still about 5-6 times as complicated as just one.
In LAMA, each player has a hand of cards which are numbered between 1 to 6 or have a llama on them, which is essentially a 7. On a player's turn, they may place one of their cards on the discard pile. It must be equal to the card currently showing or one higher. A llama is one higher than a 6, but it wraps around so that a 1 could be played on top of a llama. If a player cannot discard a suitable card, they must draw a card from the top of the deck or drop out of the round. And the aim of the game is to get rid of all your cards before the other players. Now, if you drop out, you score the cards that you have remaining, and points are bad in this game. Each card type is scored only once for the player and at face value, so a 6 is worth 6 points, but 3 6s is also worth 6 points. A llama is worth 10 points. Points are represented by tokens in denominations of 1 and 10. And if you get rid of all your cards, then you may give up a token, either a 1 or a 10, thus losing points. And when one player hits 40 points, then the game ends and the lowest scorer wins.
Now, LAMA came out of left field with regards to these awards. I mean, this is an Uno variant. It's a good one. It's very, very quick playing. It's quite funny to play. It's actually more fun and more funny than it looks in that overview to actually play the game. It's just got these nice moments where you can sort of laugh at the other player's bad luck, or enjoy your own good luck, or enjoy your own bad luck. And although the game really only has one decision, which is when to bow out, when to think, do you know, this is as good as it's going to get, and then you lock down your score. It is a delicious decision. It's a really, really neat one and very satisfying decision to make. I think the other interesting sort of dichotomy, sort of dilemma for the Spiel des Jahres jury is putting up Carpe Diem against Wingspan. Now, these could not be more of a sort of contrast. We have Carpe Diem that came out with relatively little hype, especially for a Stefan Feld game. A few years ago, a Stefan Feld design game would have been everywhere. Everybody hyped about it, everybody talking about it, but now they just sort of sneak out there. And this, with its very low-key art style, very old school sort of beige colourings that Alia tends to sort of specialise in. I mean, this is not a lavish production. And it's an old school Euro. I'm sure it's very good. I've not played it, but it's going up against Wingspan, the darling of the current sort of board game world, taking the board game world by storm, not because of its innovative gameplay, but because of its stunning production values, its clever, accessible theme, its mega popular, trendy sort of publisher brand Stonemaier behind it. And actually, because although the mechanisms are not hugely innovative, they're pieced together in such a satisfying package. Let's have a look at how Wingspan works.
In Wingspan, each player starts with some birds and some food. And in this video, I'm using the lovely wooden food tokens I bought separately from Meeple Source. Players are attempting to fill their own personal boards with birds. And on a player's turn, they may place a bird by feeding it with the required food type, and in later spaces by also giving up 1 or 2 eggs. And the birds must be placed into their favoured habitats. Or the player may take food by selecting one of the visible dice results and taking a corresponding token. Or a player may lay eggs up to the allowance indicated on each bird card. Or they could draw new cards into their hand, so they have 4 actions available. And for each action, you get an increased benefit if you have several birds already in that corresponding habitat. Often, when you take an action, the special abilities of the birds on your board will activate, giving you resources or other game-changing effects. After each player has used all their actions, then the round ends and bonuses are scored for certain objectives, for example having the most birds or having the most eggs in a certain type of nest. And after 4 rounds, the game ends and players reveal whether they've completed any of their secret objective cards. These points are added to the points shown on the birds, and they also gain 1 point per egg, and then the highest scorer wins.
Now, Wingspan is a great game. I've played Wingspan a lot, mainly at 2-player, banging out games, 20 minutes a game. We can play 3 in an hour, and It's great. As a couples game, it's great. Once you start to get up to 4 players, it starts to drag a little bit because there's not that much interaction really. And so you're sitting there waiting for your turn. But as a quick, fast, very, very pretty game, it's great. It's more complex than the internet would have you believe, okay? The internet would have you believe this is the next Ticket to Ride or something like that. It's not. This is definitely a Kennerspiel game. It's definitely in the right category. I've taught people this and found that they're a bit confused. When they're newcomers to the hobby, this would not be the first game I'd introduce them to, despite the super accessible theme. But it's not mega complex either. It is certainly a next step after you've got those first few games out of the way and people are getting a feel for what this Euro sort of hobby game thing is. So which games do I think are going to win? The Spiel des Jahres, I can't call it. To be honest, I think probably Werewords, because of that social deduction thing. I think it's about time social deduction got a nod. In terms of, is that the best of the games? Well, as I say, I haven't played Werewords, although I have played Insider, which is very, very similar. I think the best game is probably Just One. Does that mean it'll win? I don't know. It depends whether they pick innovation over sort of accessibility, I suppose. And actually, to call Just One not innovative is doing it a bit of a disservice. I mean, I myself designed the game Doodle Rush. I can tell you, having that simple an idea is something. It has huge value. It's a I would be doing myself down if I said that that was somehow lesser than something with a little bit more crunch to it. I mean, when you look at games like Dobble and Happy Salmon and Yogi, these are brilliant, brilliant games with one very basic idea. And so I think Just One, it deserves it. Personally, I would have gone for Silver and Gold. This didn't even get a nod. I mean, we talked about hitting the key sort of fads. This one hits 2 of them. We've not yet seen a roll and write game win. We had one nominated. We had Ganz Schön Clever nominated for the Kennerspiel des Jahres last year. This is a brilliant roll and write game by Phil Walker Harding, who also made Sushi Go. It's also it's not quite a polyomino game, but a Tetris style game where you're putting together Tetris pieces and writing them off on your board. That is another big trend at the moment, those Tetris style games of putting together pieces. They've been around for a long time, but it's become a fashion. I remember years ago, I think Arcadia by Rudiger Dorn got nominated or recommended or something. That was one of the early polyomino games, and a very, very good one if you want to look that up. So let's go for Spiel des Jahres. I'm going to go for Werewords as the winner. For Kennerspiel des Jahres, again, depends on whether they go for innovation or whether they go for just straightforward good gameplay. Can't say Carpe Diem getting it. I can't see it. I haven't played Carpe Diem. Maybe it's amazing. That's, I've not heard an enormous buzz around it. I've not heard it's bad. I've not heard it's great. I've just not heard much about it. Whereas Wingspan, I've heard everything about it and I can vouch for it being an absolutely fantastic game. Detective I would never play. That's not to say that it's a bad game. It's just not my style at all. Getting on a computer, getting on a phone, hours of gameplay, deduction style, very stark, dark sort of graphics and theme. Not really for me. So I'm calling it for Wingspan. In fact, I think it would be a bit of a travesty if Wingspan didn't win with the amount of hype and support that's behind it. So, another fascinating year for Spiel des Jahres. We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? I guess it will be revealed, I think, I can't remember when it is. Is it July? I think it's revealed. It's a little while. We'll be waiting. In the meantime, maybe I'll try and get a game of Carpe Diem and Werewords in. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please watch some of my others on my channel, Adam's Board Game Wales, or follow me on Twitter @BoardGameWales, on Board Game Geek, I'm at Adam78. Thank you very much for watching. All the best.